I'm sure Billy the Kid sat around with the boys and said, it's just not going to be the same, is it? The very best way to get cannabis off the streets and is to open up stores. You know, this is really the challenge. When you talk about a supply chain, right now, these big investors, these LPs, they have thousands of pounds that are rotting in warehouses because we can't open stores. So when you talk about a supply chain issue and people are grumbling because the product is dry and it's old, of course, it'd be like if we tried to keep bread for a year, it'd be all moldy. So it needs to move along. So I also see municipalities are at the heart of the problem. They're bunging it up. It's like it's constipated. It can't move. So, but if we began to allow this to flow through, I read some research recently, and I think this was BNN, Bloomberg, and they were doing an analysis on this having to do with just a commodity. What they have found is that individuals who are using cannabis for the first time are twice as likely to purchase through a regular retail store than to go to the black market. Reason why? They have no association with the black market. So what this indicates to me is that the moment that you remove the opportunity to associate, people don't. People don't seek out exposure. Most people, if they can do something legal, you have something over here, you can buy it legally, or you can go over here and you get it illegally. People don't. Where do people buy their cigarettes? Where do people buy alcohol? And you can buy both of those through illegal channels. Ask yourself, where are people purchasing it? They go and they buy it lawfully and they pay their taxes. So looking at that, this is really what we need to do. That is what's going to happen. It's a slower process, but we need to begin the process of undermining that and slowly bringing people over. Of course, there are individuals that have been around this market a long time that are a little disgruntled because it's not like the good old days. There's a part of this, and I kind of smile about it, is something about the outlaw life that I think many of us are going to miss. But it's done. I'm sure Billy the Kid sat around with the boys and said, it's just not going to be the same, is it? But I'm grateful. You know, it was a time, it was fun. Like I said, I'm an old hippie, great. But to remove the threats to the community, to individuals, that's paramount. That well exceeds me. And I think that's really what we have always we've always talked about, we've always wanted to do. I think that's always been the dialogue. Decriminalize it, regulate it, damn it, I'll pay taxes. I'd love to. So they need to open this up. They need the tax flow to happen. I also caution many people that are trying to stand in the way of LPs in stores from the side of cannabis supporters. Their concern is that craft growers aren't being given a fair shot. Well, I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna kind of play a bit of a devil's advocate. As long as the LPs have got tons of weed rotting on their shelves, there will not be room for the craft growers. We need the stores open. We need it moving through. The moment we do that, there will be room for the craft growers. That's what is so dependent. They say there's only 11 stores out of 99 that have passed the first scrutiny that have been allowed licensing. And that's not nearly enough. Alberta, my understanding is they have over 200 stores in Alberta. What do we got in BC? 10, 12? And we have in the Lower Mainland, Sunshine Coast, 2.4 million people, and I think there's 5 or 6 legal dispensaries for us. Wow. So each of them have to serve, well, let's say 25% of that. So you're looking at what? 750,000 people for half a dozen stores. Come on, that's ridiculous. So of course people are going to go back out and continue to purchase. So if they really want to come to the winning side, local governance, back the federal government. I personally don't understand why they feel that they have any right to do that. All municipalities, and I shouldn't say all, but what they have land use rights. They don't make law. They can't. They write bylaws. They can only support existing laws. Why they feel they can come in and somehow you know, ignore what's coming down the pipe from a federal level? I'm unclear as to where that authority comes from, or the belief that they have such authority. Bylaws, I guess, and they're postponing bringing in bylaws. When it comes to bylaws, if they decide we're just going to open it up, that's the bylaw. They don't have to go through any great hearing. They can actually say it's time. Comox, over on the island, a little tiny community, is opening its second dispensary this week. And it's a town probably about the size of Langley. They've opened it up. If we're really going to deal with the problems that everybody has been concerned about, forget about your neighbor smoking weed, okay? That's a personal thing. What was your concern? Your concern was law and order. That was what it was. You were concerned about drugs on the streets. You were concerned about your children. You were concerned about those things. These are the policies that are intended to remedy that. Get out of your neighbor's life and his mind, and everything else will be fine.